The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing architectural plans for a mixed-use development in the financial district. My phone lit up with my sister's name, Caroline Mitchell, and I should have known from the timing alone that this wasn't going to be pleasant. Caroline only called during work hours when she wanted something or needed to deliver news she knew I wouldn't like. "Harper," she said without preamble, "we need to talk about Saturday." Saturday was her engagement party. She'd been planning it for 3 months, ever since her boyfriend her fiancé Graham, had proposed on a beach in the Maldives with a 3-carat diamond that cost more than most people's cars. The engagement party was meant to be the social event of the season, at least according to Caroline's breathless descriptions over the past 12 weeks. "What about Saturday?" I asked, setting down my red pen. "The plans could wait. It's at the Metropolitan Arts Gallery," she said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. The Metropolitan was the city's premier event space, a converted 1920s bank building with soaring ceilings, marble columns, and enough old-world elegance to make even the most jaded socialite swoon. Graham's father pulled strings to get us the venue. They're booked 2 years in advance, but he knows someone on the board. "That's nice," I said neutrally. "The thing is," Caroline continued, and here came the part she'd been building up to, "it's going to be very upscale. Very sophisticated. Graham's parents are inviting their entire social circle. Senators, CEOs, philanthropists. The guest list is over 200 people." "Hey," I said, waiting. "And Harper, I just don't think it's the right environment for you." The words hung in the air between us. I'd been expecting them, but that didn't make them sting any less. "You're uninviting me to your engagement party," I said flatly. "I'm not uninviting you," she protested, though we both knew that was exactly what she was doing. "I'm just being realistic about the situation. You'd be uncomfortable around Graham's family and their friends. They're very accomplished people. Very successful. And you, well, you're still figuring things out." "I'm 31 years old, Caroline. I'm not a college student figuring things out." "You're a freelance graphic designer who lives in a studio apartment," she said, her voice taking on that edge of frustration she got when I didn't immediately agree with her. "You drive a 10-year-old Subaru and shop at thrift stores. Graham's mother already thinks I come from a modest background. If she sees you..." "Sees me what?" I interrupted. "Existing? Being your sister. You'll embarrass us in front of important people," she said bluntly. "I'm sorry to be harsh, but someone needs to tell you the truth. This party is crucial for Graham's career. His father's business partners will be there. These are connections that matter. We can't afford to have anything seem off." "And I'm the off thing," I said. "You don't fit the image we need to project," she said. "Graham and I are building a life together. A certain kind of life. We need people to see us as a power couple, as people on their way up. Having a sister who barely makes ends meet doing freelance work doesn't help that image." I took a slow breath, counting to 5 before responding. "So I'm disinvited because I'm an embarrassment to the carefully curated image you're selling." "Don't make this dramatic," she sighed. "It's just one party. There will be other family events where you're included. But this one is too important. Mom and Dad understand. They agree it's better if you sit this one out." That detail, that Mom and Dad agreed, hurt more than I wanted to admit. "Fine," I said quietly. "I won't come to your engagement party." "Thank you for understanding," Caroline said, relief flooding her voice. "I knew you'd be reasonable about this. When Harper, please don't mention this to anyone. It would look bad if people knew we excluded family. Just tell anyone who asks that you had a conflict." "Sure," I said. "Wouldn't want to damage the image." She missed the sarcasm entirely. "Exactly. Okay, I have to run. The caterer is calling. Love you." She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my office, the corner office on the 14th floor of the Madison building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and stared at my phone for a long moment. The Metropolitan Arts Gallery. Of course Caroline had chosen that venue. It was prestigious, exclusive, and perfect for the kind of event she was planning. What Caroline didn't know, what none of my family knew, was that I'd owned the building that housed the Metropolitan Arts Gallery since 2019. The Metropolitan was one of 17 commercial properties in my real estate portfolio. I'd acquired the building, a stunning 1920s bank that had been converted to an arts and events venue, for $12.4 million 5 years ago when the previous owner needed to liquidate quickly due to a divorce. It was worth approximately $19 million now, and it generated $340,000 in annual rental income from the gallery's lease plus additional revenue from the retail spaces on the ground floor. But my family didn't know that. They thought I was a struggling freelance graphic designer barely scraping by in a studio apartment. The reality was somewhat different. I'd started buying property at 23 with money I'd saved from an actual graphic design job I'd held for 2 years out of college. My first purchase had been a small duplex in an up-and-coming neighborhood, $180,000 financed with $36,000 down and a mortgage I could barely afford. I'd lived in one unit and rented out the other, using the rental income to cover most of the mortgage. 18 months later, I'd sold it for $270,000 and used the profit to buy a small commercial building. Then another residential property. Then a mixed-use development. Each purchase strategic, each sale timed perfectly. I'd built a real estate portfolio worth $87 million while my family thought I was struggling. The graphic design work was real. I still took on projects occasionally, more as a creative outlet than income, but it was a tiny fraction of what I actually did. Most of my time was spent managing my properties, evaluating new acquisitions, overseeing renovations and growing my real estate empire. I picked up my phone and called Michael Torres, my property manager who oversaw the Metropolitan building along with 4 other commercial properties in my portfolio. "Harper," he answered on the second ring. "What can I do for you?" "The Mitchell event on Saturday at the Metropolitan," I said. "What time is it scheduled?" I heard him typing. "Saturday evening 7 p.m. to midnight. Mitchell Graham engagement party. They booked the main gallery space." "Why?" "I need you to cancel their event permit." There was a pause. "Cancel it?" "Harper, that's in 4 days. They've already paid the deposit, $8,000. The gallery has been preparing." "I understand," I said. "Issue them a full refund of all payments. Tell them there was an administrative error and the space isn't actually available Saturday night." "An administrative error," Michael repeated carefully. "Harper, this is going to cause problems. They've sent invitations. They have caterers, florists, photographers all booked for that venue. Canceling 4 days before will be." "I know," I said. "Do it anyway." "Can I ask why?" "Personal reasons," I said. "The Mitchells are my family. My sister Caroline is the bride-to-be. She just called to uninvite me from the party because I'll embarrass them in front of their important guests." Michael was quiet for a moment. "Okay then," he said, and I could hear the understanding in his voice. He'd worked for me for 3 years and knew I didn't make decisions like this lightly. "I'll handle it. Should I mention the ownership situation when I call?" "No," I said. "Just the administrative error. Let them think it's bad luck." "When should I make the call?" I checked my watch. It was 2 p.m. on Tuesday. The party was Saturday at 7 p.m. 2 hours before the event, I said. "Saturday at 5 p.m. "That's brutal," Michael observed. "Yes," I agreed. "It is." "I'll handle it personally," he said. "Anything else?" "No, thank you, Michael." After hanging up, I returned to my architectural plans. But I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about Caroline's words. "You'll embarrass us in front of important people." I'd spent 8 years listening to my family make assumptions about my life. The struggling artist's sister. The one who couldn't quite get it together. The one who needed career advice and financial guidance and gentle suggestions about getting a real job. The truth was I owned more real estate than my parents, my sister and her wealthy fiancé combined. My portfolio included the building where Caroline's engagement party was supposed to happen. And she had no idea. Wednesday and Thursday passed normally. I attended a property inspection in the warehouse district, reviewed quarterly financial statements with my accountant, and met with an architect about a potential acquisition. A historic hotel that needed complete renovation but had excellent bones and a prime location. Friday afternoon my mother called. "Harper, sweetheart," she said, her voice warm but tinged with something apologetic. "How are you?" "I'm fine, Mom. How are you?" "We're good. Busy with last-minute party preparations for Caroline. The engagement party is tomorrow night, you know." "I know," I said. "Caroline mentioned she talked to you about the guest list," Mom said carefully. I want you to know your father and I didn't want to exclude you, but we understood her reasoning. This party is so important for her future with Graham's family. So important that her own sister can't attend, I said. It's just complicated, honey. Graham's parents are very influential people. First impressions matter. And you have to admit you haven't exactly, well, your career hasn't taken off the way Caroline's has. Caroline worked in marketing at a pharmaceutical company. Mid-level position, decent salary, nothing extraordinary. But she dressed well, drove a nice car, lived in an upscale apartment that our parents helped pay for, and dated a man whose father owned a commercial real estate development company. My career is fine, Mom, I said. Freelance graphic design is precarious, she said. We've told you this. You need stability, benefits, retirement planning. Caroline has all those things. It makes sense that she'd be in a different social circle. A social circle that doesn't include her sister, I said. Just for this one event, Mom said. There will be other parties, other celebrations. The wedding, of course, you'll absolutely be invited to that. This is just about making the right impression tomorrow night. Right, I said. Understood. I'm glad you're being mature about this, she said, sounding relieved. I know Caroline was worried you'd make a scene. After we hung up, I sat at my desk, the custom mahogany desk in my home office that overlooked the city from my penthouse apartment, and thought about my family's version of me versus the reality. Their version, struggling freelance designer in a studio apartment, barely making ends meet, needing guidance and support. Reality, real estate investor with an $87 million portfolio, 17 properties across the city, passive income of over $2 million annually, and a penthouse I'd purchased for cash 3 years ago. The disconnect was almost funny. Saturday arrived. I spent the morning reviewing contracts for a potential acquisition, a small office building in the Arts District. Had lunch with my attorney to discuss some property tax appeals. At 3 p.m. I went to the gym in my building. At 4:30 I showered and dressed in comfortable clothes, jeans and a cashmere sweater. At 5 p.m. Michael called. I'm about to make the call to the gallery, he said. Last chance to change your mind. Don't change my mind, I said. Make the call. On it, he said. I'll let you know how it goes. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the city lights begin to glow as evening settled in. My phone rang at 5:17 p.m. Michael. It's done, he said. I called the gallery director and informed her of the administrative error. She called the Mitchell party contact, your sister Caroline, immediately. Based on the background noise I could hear, Caroline did not take it well. I imagine not, I said. The gallery director offered sincere apologies and a full refund. Caroline was apparently screaming about lawsuits and how this was unacceptable. The director remained professional and reiterated that the space was not available due to the error. Did Caroline ask about alternative venues? She did. The director explained that with 2 hours' notice on a Saturday evening, finding alternative space would be virtually impossible. Especially for 200 guests. Thank you, Michael, I said. The gallery asked if we'd consider making an exception. I said the decision came from ownership and was final. They asked if they could speak with ownership. I said ownership was unavailable. Perfect, I said. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Caroline. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Then again. Then my mother called. Then my father. I silenced my phone and finished my wine. At 6:30 p.m. there was a knock on my apartment door. I checked the security camera and saw my sister Caroline standing in the hallway, mascara streaked, hair disheveled, looking like her world was ending. I opened the door. Harper, she gasped, practically falling into my apartment. Oh my God, Harper, the most horrible thing happened. The gallery canceled our party. 2 hours before it was supposed to start. 2 hours. All our guests are already on their way. Graham's parents are furious. The caterer is threatening to sue us for breach of contract because we can't provide the venue. The florist already delivered everything to the gallery and now we have nowhere to display them. The photographer is charging us for his time anyway. This is a disaster. An absolute disaster. She was crying in earnest now, collapsed on my sofa, her designer dress rumpled. That's terrible, I said calmly. What happened? They said it was an administrative error. that the space wasn't actually available. How does that even happen? They took our deposit 3 months ago. We've been planning this for 3 months. We sent invitations to 200 people. And 2 hours before the party they just cancel. That does seem poorly timed, I agreed. I don't know what to do, she sobbed. Graham is trying to find alternative venues, but everything that could possibly accommodate 200 people on a Saturday night is already booked. His parents think we're incompetent. All those important people are going to show up and there will be no party. We're going to look like idiots. That's unfortunate, I said. She looked up at me, tears streaming. Can you help? Please? I know we haven't been close lately and I know I said things about tomorrow, today, about the party, but I'm desperate. Do you know anyone who might have space? Any connections at all? Connections? I asked. Venues, event spaces, anything. You do graphic design, right? You must work with event planners, people in the arts community. Anyone who might know of last-minute space availability. I sat down across from her. Caroline, before I answer that, I need to ask you something. Anything, she said desperately. Please just ask. Why did you uninvite me from your engagement party? She had the grace to look ashamed. Harper, I'm so sorry about that. I was being terrible. You're my sister. I should have wanted you there. I was just so worried about impressing Graham's family and I made assumptions about you that weren't fair. What assumptions? I pressed. That you wouldn't fit in, she admitted. That you'd be uncomfortable, that Graham's parents and their friends would judge us for having a sister who's... She stopped, realizing she was about to say something hurtful. A sister who's what? I asked. Poor? Unsuccessful? An embarrassment. I didn't mean it like that, she protested weakly. You did, I said. You meant it exactly like that. You uninvited me because you thought I'd damage the image you were trying to project. The successful, upwardly mobile couple. Having a struggling freelance designer sister didn't fit that narrative. I'm sorry, she whispered. I really am. I was awful to you. I don't deserve your help. But Harper, I'm begging you. If you know anyone, any way to salvage this, please. I'll do anything. I pulled out my phone and called Michael. Michael Torres, he answered. It's Harper. Is the gallery still available this evening? There was a pause. The Metropolitan? Yes. After canceling the Mitchell event, we have no bookings for tonight. Reinstate the Mitchell event permit, I said. Full access to the main gallery space. Tell the gallery director to prepare for guests arriving at 7 p.m. You're sure? Michael asked. I'm sure, I said. Also, let them know I'll be attending. Reserve the owner's suite for my use. The owner's suite? He repeated, emphasizing the words. Yes, I said. I think it's time. Understood, Michael said. I'll call the gallery director immediately. I hung up and looked at Caroline, who was staring at me with complete confusion. What just happened? She asked. Who was that? Harper, what? My phone rang. I answered on speaker. Ms. Reese, came the voice of Margaret Wu, the gallery director. I just received word from Mr. Torres. I want to apologize profusely for the error regarding the Mitchell event. We'd be honored to host the engagement party this evening as originally planned. Everything will be ready for your guests at 7 p.m. Thank you, Margaret, I said. I'll see you shortly. Wait, Caroline said as I hung up. What did you just do? How do you know the gallery director? How did you get them to reinstate our event? We should probably go, I said, standing. Your guests will be arriving in 20 minutes. You'll want to be there. Harper, what's happening? I don't understand. Get up, I said. Fix your makeup. We're going to your engagement party. But you're not invited, she said automatically, then winced. I mean, God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I'm inviting myself, I said. Come on. I changed quickly into a dress. A simple black Armani that I'd bought for property closings and investor meetings. Added heels and minimal jewelry. Grabbed my keys. Your apartment, Caroline said, looking around properly for the first time. This isn't a studio. This is huge. And this furniture. Harper, how can you afford this? We'll talk about it later, I said. Right now we have a party to get to. We took my car, not the 10-year-old Subaru my family thought I drove, but the Mercedes S-Class I kept in my building's parking garage. Caroline stared at it but seemed too overwhelmed to ask questions. The drive to the Metropolitan took 12 minutes. I pulled into the underground parking garage and used my owner's access card to enter the reserved section. My permanent spot, labeled H. Reese Owner, was right next to the elevator. Caroline saw the sign. Owner? Harper, what does that mean? Why does your parking spot say owner? Because I own the building, I said calmly, getting out of the car. She stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing. You own what? The parking garage. The building, I corrected. The entire building. The gallery, the retail spaces, all of it. I purchased it in 2019 for $12.4 million. That's not possible, she whispered. You're a freelance graphic designer. I do some graphic design work, I said. But primarily I'm a real estate investor. I own 17 commercial and residential properties across the city. Total portfolio value is approximately $87 million. Caroline sat down heavily on the hood of my car. $87 million. Last quarter's valuation, yes, I said. It fluctuates with the market. You told me you lived in a studio apartment. You assumed I lived in a studio apartment, I corrected. I live in a 4-bedroom penthouse that I own. You've never asked to visit, so you never saw it. The Subaru. I sold it 2 years ago. I've been driving the Mercedes since 2021. You've never asked about my car, so I never mentioned the change. She was crying again, but these were different tears. I've been so horrible to you. We all have. Mom and Dad, they think you're struggling. They offer to help with your rent. They send you money for Christmas to help with expenses. I know, I said. I donate that money to charity. The local food bank, usually. Oh my God, she said. Oh my God, Harper, I'm so sorry. We've been treating you like you're failing when you're incredibly successful. More successful than any of us. Success isn't a competition, I said. But yes, I've done well for myself. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said. 8 years ago when I bought my first property, I invited the family to dinner to celebrate. Do you remember? She shook her head, but I could see recognition dawning. You canceled because you had a work event. Mom and Dad canceled because they had a couple's massage scheduled. After that, I stopped trying to share my professional life with you all. It seemed easier to let you believe whatever you wanted to believe. We've been terrible to you, she said. All these years, giving you advice you didn't need, feeling sorry for you when you didn't need pity, treating you like I was less than you, I finished. Like I was the struggling little sister who couldn't quite measure up. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Right now you need to say hello to your guests, I said, checking my watch. It's 6:55. They'll start arriving any minute. We can talk more after the party. We took the elevator to the gallery level. The doors opened to reveal Margaret Wu, the gallery director, waiting in the lobby. She was a polished woman in her 50s who'd been managing the Metropolitan for 3 years. Ms. Reese, she said, extending her hand. It's wonderful to see you. I'm so glad we could resolve the administrative situation. Thank you for your flexibility, Margaret, I said. This is my sister Caroline Mitchell. It's her engagement party tonight. Congratulations, Margaret said warmly to Caroline. Everything is prepared in the main gallery. The caterer is setting up now, the florist has completed the arrangements, and your photographer is ready. Shall I show you to the space? Caroline followed mutely as Margaret led us through the marble corridors. The main gallery was stunning, 3-story ceilings, original architectural details from the building's 1920s bank origins, modern lighting that made the space glow. The caterer had transformed it into an elegant party venue with round tables, a bar set up, and a stage for speeches. It's perfect, Caroline said weakly. It's exactly as I planned it. Your vision was excellent, Margaret said. We're honored to host your celebration. Graham arrived moments later, looking harried. Caroline, I've been calling you. I found a hotel conference room that might work, but it's only available for 2 hours and they want. He stopped when he saw the gallery. Wait, what? I thought they canceled. It was a misunderstanding, Caroline said. Harper fixed it. Harper. Graham looked at me for the first time, clearly having no idea who I was. Hi, sister, Caroline said. Harper Reese. Harper, this is Graham Webster, my fiancé. Nice to meet you, I said, shaking his hand. How did you fix this? Graham asked. I've been calling every venue in the city. They all said it was impossible to get space tonight. I know the owner, I said simply. You know the owner of the Metropolitan? Graham's eyebrows rose. That's an incredible connection. How did you? Long story, I said. But your party is back on. Your guests will be arriving any minute. Graham's parents appeared in the doorway, imposing figures in expensive formal wear. His mother looked like she'd stepped out of a society magazine, and his father had the bearing of someone used to being the most important person in any room. What's happening? His mother demanded. Graham, we thought this party was cancelled. Why are we at the gallery? It's back on, Mother, Graham said. Caroline's sister knew the owner and worked it out. Mrs. Webster's gaze swept over me. My simple black dress, my minimal jewelry, my lack of obvious designer labels. I could see her making calculations trying to place me in her social hierarchy. How fortunate, she said coolly. And you are? Harper Reese, I said. Caroline's sister. The graphic designer, Mrs. Webster said, and it wasn't a question. Caroline had clearly briefed them on the embarrassing sister. Among other things, I said pleasantly. Guests began arriving. 200 people filtered into the gallery over the next 30 minutes. Exactly the kind of crowd Caroline had described. Senators, CEOs, philanthropists. Graham's father's business associates. Society figures who appeared in the lifestyle section of the newspaper. I stood near the back watching Caroline and Graham greet their guests. Watching Mrs. Webster hold court near the bar. Watching my parents arrive and look confused to find the party happening after all. Mom spotted me and came over. Harper, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't invited. I thought you had a conflict. Plans changed, I said. How did the party get reinstated? She asked. Caroline called me in hysterics at 5:30 saying everything was ruined. I made some calls, I said. Before Mom could ask more questions, Margaret approached. Ms. Reese, excuse me. There's a minor issue with the climate control in the owner's suite. Could you take a look? Of course, I said. Excuse me, Mom. I followed Margaret upstairs to the owner's suite, a private space on the 3rd floor with windows overlooking the main gallery below. It was set up with comfortable furniture, a small bar, and a private viewing area. There's no climate control issue, Margaret said once we were alone. I just thought you might want a break from the crowd. This is a lot to navigate. Thank you, I said. You're very perceptive. I've been managing this space for 3 years, she said. I know you prefer to stay out of the spotlight. But Ms. Reese, your sister's future mother-in-law, is asking questions. She wanted to know who owned the building. I didn't give details, but she's persistent. Let her be persistent, I said. She'll figure it out eventually. Should I tell her? I considered. Not yet. Let the party continue. I'll handle it if it becomes necessary. I stayed in the owner's suite for an hour watching the party through the windows. Caroline and Graham looked happy, dancing and laughing with their guests. My parents circulated through the crowd, clearly enjoying the upscale event. Mrs. Webster cornered Margaret near the bar. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see Margaret's polite but firm responses. Whatever Mrs. Webster was asking, Margaret wasn't giving her answers. At 8:30 there was a knock on the suite door. Caroline stood outside. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. She looked around the suite, the expensive furniture, the private bar, the perfect view of her party below. This is the owner's suite, isn't it? She asked. Yes, I said. Because you're the owner. Yes, I said again. She sat down heavily on the leather sofa. I keep trying to process this. You own this building. You have $87 million in property. You've been successful for years and none of us knew. You didn't ask, I said simply. We should have asked, she said. We should have been interested in your life instead of assuming we knew what it was. Harper, I'm so ashamed. I uninvited you from my engagement party, from my party that's happening in a building you own, because I thought you'd embarrass me. Yes, I said. How can you not hate us? She asked. How can you not be furious? I was furious, I admitted. That's why I canceled your event permit initially. I wanted you to feel what it was like to be dismissed, excluded, judged as not good enough. We deserved that, she said. We deserved worse than that. Maybe, I said. But I changed my mind. Because you're still my sister and this is still your engagement party, and despite everything I didn't actually want to ruin it for you. You didn't ruin it, she said. You saved it. And you're being kinder to me than I deserve. Probably, I agreed. But that's what family is supposed to do. Be kind even when it's not deserved. She started crying again. I want to tell Mom and Dad. They need to know the truth. They've been treating you like you're failing, and you're the most successful person in our family. You can tell them, I said. But Caroline, I need you to understand something. I didn't build this portfolio for recognition or approval. I built it because I saw opportunities and had the skills to execute. What Mom and Dad think about it doesn't change what I've accomplished. But they should know, she insisted. They should be proud of you. They should have been proud of me regardless, I said. Success isn't just measured in dollars and property deeds. The fact that you all couldn't see my worth unless I had a certain net worth is part of the problem. She flinched but nodded. You're right. We've been shallow and judgmental and terrible. Yes, I agreed. But you can be better going forward. There was another knock. Graham poked his head in. Caroline, people are asking for you. We need to do the toast soon. I'll be right there, she said. Then to me, will you come down? Please? I want you at my party. Really want you there. Not because you own the building, but because you're my sister and I love you and I should have wanted you there from the beginning. Hey, I said. I'll come down. We returned to the main gallery together. As we descended the stairs, I saw Mrs. Webster notice us emerging from the private area. Saw her eyes narrow with curiosity. The toasts began. Graham's father spoke about young love and building a future together. My father gave an emotional speech about watching Caroline grow up. Graham himself spoke about how lucky he was to have found Caroline. Then Caroline took the microphone. I want to thank everyone for coming, she said, her voice amplified through the gallery. This venue is absolutely stunning, and we're so grateful to be celebrating here tonight. She paused, looking directly at me. I also want to thank my sister Harper, she continued. Many of you don't know her. I'm ashamed to say I didn't really know her either until tonight. But she's the reason we're able to have this party. She's the reason we're standing in this beautiful space celebrating this moment. People applauded politely, confused but going along with it. What my sister did for me tonight, Caroline said, her voice breaking slightly, was show me grace I didn't deserve. She gave me a gift I had no right to receive. And she did it because she's a better person than I've been to her. Mrs. Webster was watching intently now. Harper, Caroline said, would you come up here please? I shook my head slightly but she insisted. Reluctantly, I made my way through the crowd to the small stage where Caroline stood. Everyone, Caroline said, this is my younger sister Harper Reese. She's the owner of this building. She's the reason the Metropolitan Arts Gallery exists. And she's the person who made this entire evening possible. The crowd went silent. Then buzzing with whispers. Mrs. Webster's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally something that might have been respect. Harper built a real estate empire while I thought she was struggling, Caroline continued. She owns 17 properties worth nearly $90 million while I pitted her for driving an old car. She's been successful for years while our family gave her career advice she didn't need. My mother gasped audibly from somewhere in the crowd. And when I uninvited her from this party because I thought she'd embarrass me, Caroline said, tears streaming now, she had every right to let me fail. Instead she saved my event. She's here tonight not because she had to be but because she chose to be. Because she's gracious and generous and kind in ways I haven't been. He turned to me. Harper, I'm so sorry. For everything. 4 years of dismissing you, underestimating you, treating you like you were less than me when you've been extraordinary all along. You deserved better from me. From all of us. The crowd applauded, louder now, genuine. I took the microphone. Thank you, Caroline. That means a lot. I looked out at 200 faces, strangers mostly but also my parents standing near the back looking shell-shocked. I want to say something about family, I said. About the assumptions we make and the narratives we create. My family thought they knew who I was. They saw what they expected to see and didn't look any deeper. I let them believe it because it was easier than constantly defending myself. I paused, choosing my words carefully. But tonight I'm done hiding. I own this building. I own 16 others. I built a successful career through hard work and strategic thinking. I did it without my family's approval because I didn't need their approval. I did it for myself. My father was crying now. I could see him across the room, tears streaming down his face. Caroline asked me why I'm not furious with all of you, I said. The truth is I am. But I'm also tired of being angry. So here's what happens now. We start over. We build relationships based on honesty instead of assumptions. And we stop measuring each other's worth by external markers of success. I handed the microphone back to Caroline and started to step down. Mrs. Webster appeared at the base of the stairs. Ms. Reese, she said formally. I owe you an apology. I made assumptions about you that were completely incorrect. I understand you're in commercial real estate. Yes, I said. My husband's company develops commercial properties. Perhaps we should talk business sometime. Perhaps, I said neutrally. Also, she continued, lowering her voice, thank you for giving Graham and Caroline this evening. It would have been a disaster without your intervention. You're welcome, I said. The party continued for another 3 hours. I spent most of it in conversations, with Graham's business associates who suddenly wanted to know about my portfolio, with guests asking about the building's history, with my parents who couldn't stop apologizing. Harper, my mother said for the 10th time, I can't believe we didn't know. I can't believe we treated you like you were struggling when you were doing so well. You believed what you expected to believe, I said. That's human nature. But we're your family, Dad said. We should have known you better. Should have asked more questions. Should have been curious about your life instead of assuming we understood it. Yes, I agreed. You should have. But you can start now. At midnight, as the party wound down, Caroline found me again. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. For this beautiful venue, for saving my party, for being gracious when I didn't deserve it. You're welcome, I said. Can we have lunch next week? She asked. Just us. I want to hear about your business. Really hear about it. Not because I feel obligated, but because I'm genuinely interested in what you've built. I'd like that, I said honestly. As I drove home that night back to my penthouse in the building I owned, I thought about the evening. About revelations and assumptions, about family and grace, about the difference between who people think you are and who you actually are. My family finally saw me. Not the struggling artist they'd imagined, but the successful businesswoman I'd become while they weren't paying attention. Felt good to be seen. But it also felt a little sad that it had taken 8 years and a cancelled engagement party for them to finally look closely enough to notice. I'd spent years building in secret, hiding my success because my family couldn't see past their own biases. Now the secret was out. The struggling sister had been revealed as the most successful person in the family. Tomorrow I'd have to navigate what that meant. The changed dynamics, the new assumptions, the inevitable requests for advice or investment opportunities. But tonight I was just tired. I'd saved my sister's engagement party in a building I owned. I'd revealed my portfolio to a room full of strangers and family. I'd watched my parents' faces as they realized how wrong they'd been about my life. It was enough for one evening. The Mercedes purred smoothly through the empty streets. Above me, the city lights reflected off buildings, some of which I owned, most of which I didn't. My empire built quietly while everyone thought I was failing. I smiled. Let them underestimate you, I thought. Let them make assumptions. Then surprise them with the truth. It was the most satisfying kind of success, the kind nobody saw coming.